Okay, so this is Secretary Training 101. My name is Autumn Nagel. Bobby Joe couldn't be here today. So her name is on here, but you can also always reach out to her also. So we're going to do this. If you have questions, let me know. If I don't happen to see you quickly in the chat, just let me know. You can unmute and say, hey, I got a question. Or you can wait to the end. I am flexible on this. There's only 4 of us, and we had 13 registered, so maybe more people will pop in, but oh, there's one right now. So I'm here to help. All right. So if you haven't seen this is really what we're rolling down PTA, especially in the virtual world now. Remember that PTA, if you haven't seen this, I'm going to share it. Can you all hear volume? Thumbs up? Yes?
PTA to bring sunshine to someone's cloudy day. The reason why IPTA is to be a voice and an advocate for all children and to help bring families and communities together.
PTA to bring innovative programming and create meaningful engagement among the families of school communities.
PTA by being a reading and lunchroom buddy for 1st and 2nd graders at Jefferson Elementary School.
Yo ayudo a la comunidad transmitiendo para las familias en Annandale High School y donando comida a la comunidad en Annandale.
So we're really going on the basis there's no wrong way to PTA, and PTA is definitely a verb because you all are working. There may not be a paycheck involved, but there is young students and families and teachers that are counting on volunteers to help on the school level, to advocate on both the district and state level and nationally. So you all are doing hard work. So I want to thank you guys in advance. We always have our PTA mission on here because it's very important to remember why we do things to make every child's potential a reality by engaging, empowering families and communities to advocate for all children, not just yours, but all children. And you all are being on the board, already know that. You're advocating for all your children. You're not just there because of your child. So as a member of the board of directors, you have programs and activities, and you should follow the mission and demonstrate the PTA values, which are collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability. And these are all on National PTA's website, on our website, on Kentucky's website. But it's just a nice way to frame everything when we're looking through it, to make sure that we are following what we are truly here for. We're not here to be cliquish. We're not here to exclude anyone. We're here to make sure everybody is welcome and together, and have some fun while we're at it, because you should be having fun too. So the bylaws are the governing rules of the association, and it tells you what these are. The secretary usually has a copy of their bylaws. Actually, every board member should have a copy of their bylaws and standing rules in their procedure book, but this is just what the bylaws have in there. And it's important to the secretary because a lot of the things the secretary has to pull out that we'll be discussing are actually in your bylaws. So it tells you your members, your officers, the quorum, it gives you directions on elections and vacancies, the committees and that type of stuff. All of that is in your bylaws. Now, Kentucky has a standard bylaws for all PTAs. So there is a template on Kentucky's website, and that's the link right there. It has step-by-step, and it gives you every single one of them, how you fill it out. If you have questions when you're filling one out, just let us know, and we will walk with you through it, so you can make sure that when you're with your members that you all have a clear idea of what you're voting on. So some general information. Secretary's job is to keep all of the records for the PTA. That includes your correspondence, your minutes, your record of who's in attendance. You are an officer and you're a member of the board of directors. It is an elected position. It is also required by the state of Kentucky for a nonprofit. So if you have as all of you know, you are your own 401c, your own identity, but at the same time, you fall under Kentucky PTA and you're under a nonprofit. So you are a nonprofit, and because you're required to have a president, treasurer, and a secretary. You can have 15 VPs if you want, but if you don't have a treasurer, president, or secretary, you're not in compliance with Kentucky's nonprofit laws. Secretary is also the right hand of the president. Usually the secretary will get the agenda from the president and send it out, before the upcoming meeting, say this is on the agenda. If you want to add something or need something, email me. They also make sure that we have quorum for the meeting. So they're saying, hey, the meeting is next Tuesday. Please verify that you will be in attendance. They take all of the records of the minutes. They will actually passing them to the next secretary because that is what's required. Those are permanent records. Unlike other records in your of your PTA, they don't disappear.
250, the village bus, the battery. I need a jump. Can someone come over?
Okay, someone, Virginia.
Oh, I'm
there. Anyway, so you need to make sure that you're able to pass those records off. And it gets to a point where you have so many, you can box those up, and those can be kept in a secure place, either in the school. If you don't have another place, you can actually contact 15 District PTA, and we can store them. That CAP is where we've been storing some. So remember, if you don't have a procedure book yet with all that information, with your minutes, make sure you create one so you can pass it on to the next person. And this is that procedure book that I was just talking about. Procedure books should be for everybody, but the secretary has the bylaws, the standing rules, the agendas, the minutes, any reports, the calendars, list of members, all this stuff should be in there. But every board member should have one of these. It won't have the exact same thing the secretary has, because if you're in charge of, let's say Ways and Means, and you did a fundraiser, you want to have all that stuff in there that tells you about the fundraiser, especially if you did a fundraiser that didn't go as well as you'd hoped. You don't want the person coming in after you saying, oh, well, I thought the fundraiser went well. But if you had to contact that fundraising company 6 or 7 times because the orders were wrong or they didn't return your calls, you don't really want to give that next one the same headache. Possibly there's a better fundraiser. In the same token, if you work with a picture company and you absolutely love them, they were wonderful, you want to put that in there so that the next person goes, okay, well, I don't need to look at anyone else. We've been using them for the last 2 years and they've been wonderful. That gives you a starting point. Why recreate the will if you already have done it? And it's a good will. So that's what a procedure book is, to show what you've done in the past so the people that take over don't have to recreate the will. They don't have to start from scratch. All right, so the secretary's main responsibilities is, taking the minutes. These are all from national and everything, but making sure the meetings are prepared, making sure there's agendas for everyone, making sure that you give the minutes from the last meeting so you can get it approved. And then after the meeting, getting those minutes out to your board members so they can check for mistakes. That's a really good standing rule too that you would have, that I suggest putting in, is if your PTA meets on this day, 7 days from then, having the minutes sent out to everyone so everyone remembers what they're doing. So too many times we have a meeting and then 30 days come forward, like, oh my gosh, what did we do? Well, if a week after that meeting or 24 hours or whatever it is, you get the minutes saying this is what we decided to do, then that is a nice record to make sure that you know what's coming that month. All minutes and reports are kept in a permanent official binder or file. We've talked about the agenda, but there it is written out that you work with the president, and then anyone that wants something on the agenda needs to let them know, and that is sent out before the meeting. And at the meeting, you will be approving those minutes. Now you can approve them as they are, if there are nothing that needs to be corrected. If you're correcting the minutes, then they'd be approved as corrected. So you need to make sure you know what those are. Corrections. So we're going to talk about all this, but I do want to let you know there's a really great National PTA does an e-learning course that talks about how to take minutes, and it's for the secretaries, and they really go through all these different things. We're going to hit some of the ones that are really prevalent to talk about. But you should have what type of meeting you have, whether it is a regular, special, adjourned, what type of meeting. Now, your type of meeting is also what type of association or assembly. So is it your general PTA meeting? Is it your general board meeting? Is it a committee meeting? Is it a special board meeting? So those are special things that should be at the top of your minutes, the type of meeting. So it should be ABC PTA, regular general board meeting, regular general meeting. Your date, your time, and your place of the meeting. First thing is when the meeting was called to order. And if your secretary is not the secretary, then you need to not there for, let's say their child is sick and they were not there at that meeting, then the president would appoint a secretary, and that needs to be in the minutes. So when they get done with those minutes, whoever is that appointing secretary would write those minutes out, and they would give them to the current secretary so that they can keep them all together and get them approved. It's very important that that the president appoints a secretary if you are the secretary and not there. The secretary also establishes whether quorum is present, and that's if you can do business. If you don't have quorum, you can meet, but you can't approve anything. You can't approve your minutes. You can't approve what your fundraiser is. You can't approve anything things that are approvable. You do need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. If you don't have minutes, let's say for some reason the minutes didn't get set out and you don't have them, things happen, then you need to make sure that you put in your minutes that minutes were not approved from the previous meeting. They will be approved in the next meeting and state, whether it's the November meeting or whatever meeting it is. All your reports from your officers are in your minutes. So especially in this digital world that we're in right now, a lot of people type up their minutes and send them out in advance. You would just need to, say see or the reports, not minutes. So you would say see treasurer's report. It doesn't mean the secretary needs to type everything out that's on that, because you've got a treasurer's report. So the treasurer's report would become part of those minutes. So it would be the any other reports that you have. All motions, we're going to talk more in depth on motions, but all motions should be made there, and we recommend that those are written down and attached also. Unfinished business, new business, announcements, program information, what time you adjourned, and then the secretary needs to sign them because these are a document and this is signed saying this is what we did. Any questions about that? We're going to hit a few of these more in depth. So this is those type of meetings that we were just talking about. So you have your general membership. Those meetings are determined by your bylaws, how many you will have. You will need to have at least 3 because that is the minimum on your bylaws. You can have 10 if you put in there. I suggest you put 3 to begin with, when you do your bylaws, so that you can have as many as you want, but you're just making sure you're hitting that minimum. And in your bylaws also tells you how much notice you have to give before you can have a general meeting. This is the same with your board meeting. It's your board meeting of general board members. Those are the elected and committee chairs. Your executive board meeting would be just your elected officials and your principal or your principal's representative. Your committee meetings, that's meetings of any committee. Special meetings can apply to any of these if they're specially called to deal with 1 or 2 issues. They are not your regular scheduled meeting. So if you have your regular scheduled meeting the second Tuesday of every month, that's your regular meeting. But if you have something that comes up and you need to call a special meeting and it's going to be the third Thursday because that's when everyone can meet, that is considered a special meeting. Even though it's still of your board of managers or your board of directors, that is still considered a special meeting because it is called and it's not your regularly scheduled meeting. So you make sure you always check with your bylaws on how much time you need to give in order to have a meeting. Because you can't call a meeting for tomorrow night if your bylaws say you have to give a 7-day notice, because that doesn't give everyone the opportunity to get there. And especially if you're voting on something very important, you want to make sure everybody's there and their voice is being heard. Okay, so how is quorum determined? And this is something that has to be in your minutes. What if your quorum is met? So a general meeting, it's determined by your bylaws. Now, your bylaws say it has to be at least 10 as the minimum. You can have as many as you want according to your bylaws. Most of the time, we recommend still just 10, because if you set your quorum too high and you don't have the members there, you can't do any business. So 10 is your minimum. You can have 500 people at your general meeting, and that is awesome if you have that, but you have to at least have 10 in order to do that. If you do not have a copy of your bylaws, let me know, or let Bobby Joe or let anyone at 15th know. We can get them. If we don't have a copy, Kentucky does, and we can get you those. So it's important to know what your general meeting states. And that's especially important because you're doing them virtually now. So you need to make sure you have those members. And members are, even if you are a PTSA and you have student members, they are members, so they count on your quorum. Board meetings and committee meetings. The standard, which is Robert's rules, is half plus 1. So if you have 12 board members, you need 7, because that's half is 6 and plus 1 is 7. That is a standard. That's what you need in order to do business. If you don't have quorum, you can't do any business that's official. You can meet, you can discuss, but you can't take any actions because you don't have quorum. You don't have that buy-in. You don't have the total body making that decisions. And your meetings are not in the parking lot. The meetings are together. So making sure that everything is official and that you have quorum is very important. Okay, so once you have quorum and you can vote on business, you need to know what type of vote you can take and what kind of majority vote or 2/3 vote. So there are several different types of votes. You can do a voice vote. You can do a roll call. So voice is by consensus. Is everyone okay with the approval of the minutes? Roll call is you actually sit, and Jefferson County Board of Education does this every single vote they do. They do it by roll call. Mr. Brady, what is your, so they have to give their vote one at a time. General consent, actually general consent is what I said by voice. I got that mixed up. My apologies. General consent. Is there consensus to accept Autumn as the pro temp secretary? All in favor? By voice would be all in favor, say yes, all opposed, say no. And if you can definitely tell there's more yays or nays or more nays than yays, then you can do a voice vote. If it isn't, then you're going to need to do it either by division or by ballot. Division is if you've been in a meeting and they say, everyone that agrees with this, please stand up, and they count off. And then rising. By ballot, that's a ballot. That's a piece of paper that you take and you actually vote on. So you take a piece of paper, everyone has the same kind of paper, and they have to, you appoint 3 tellers. I'm trying to think if I actually put this in. No, I didn't. You have 3 tellers. 1 teller actually, you do a count off in the room. You have 12 people, you count off, and then you actually give a vote to each person. A teller does paper, and then the president says, okay, on this vote, say yes if you agree with this, say no if you disagree. That's the only thing. Fold it once, and then another teller comes around with a box or a bag, and you put the ballot in there. That person needs to put it in there. No one collects them. It goes in the bag. I can't touch it. You can't touch it. Only the person that wrote on it touches it. When all of them are collected, the 3 tellers will go out to the hallway or to a separate area, and they will tally the votes. And then they will come back into the meeting and say, this is the ballot. We had how many? We had, let's say, 12 people that could vote. We had 12 ballots. 7 ballots were yay. 3 ballots, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. See how to do this. 5, kindergarten math here. 5 votes are negative, And then they'll give the results to the president reads them, and then they will say, according to this, we have a majority vote, so therefore this passes. Yeah, that's if it's a majority vote. Now your two types of votes are majority and 2/3 votes. So majority is half. So if you have 1,000 votes, the majority is 501, not 51%, which would be 510 votes. So majority doesn't have anything to do with percentages. It's clearly half. So it's got to be more than half. So 501 is that majority. 510 again would be that 51%, but it's not done on percentage, it's done on majority. A 2/3 vote, that calculates as, and we have a calculations here, divide the number of votes by 3 and then multiply by 2, and that will give you what you have to have a majority. Now, how often do we use the 2/3 votes? It's not used a lot, but there are crucial points that you do use it. You do use it to suspend or modify rules of order that are already adopted. So your rules of order are definitely your standing rules. So your standing rules are if you're changing something and you're adding something to your standing rules, you need a 2/3 vote in order to change something on them. If you're doing a introduction, if you're doing a motion and there's an introduction, a question to consider, you need to stop it in order to do a 2/3 vote. And you'll have to do that. Same with closing or limiting. So you're in the middle of debate and someone says, I choose to close debate at this time. In order to close debate, you have to vote as a group, and it has to pass by 2/3 majority. If it doesn't, then guess what? You continue to debate. If it does pass, because you would take the vote right then, no matter who else is on the list to talk, you take that vote right then they would automatically stop debate and the issue would be voted on. Same with nominations or polls. If you're doing nominations from the floor and someone says, I chose to close nominations, you have to have a 2/3 vote in order to close nominations. And I can't see what the third one is here because, sorry, my screen sharing thing is right on top of it. Let's go back one. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Take away membership or office. If there is an issue where you're taking away a position due to the person not fulfilling their duties and they've missed the amount of excused absence or they haven't had an absence, they've just fallen off, you need to have 2/3 vote in order to take someone out of that office. Are there any questions about that? Kind of went through that fast. I hope it wasn't too fast. Quiet group today.
That was good. It all made sense to me.
Okay, great. That's what I'm hoping for. Again,
we have a really small PTSA, so hopefully it'll grow and these rules will be more pressing, but
right.
Thanks.
And a lot of things you don't really come into contact until you get bigger. And it doesn't matter how big you are. The Robert's Rules of Order really help you make sure everything is in line and you don't have what is not in your minutes? Opinions. Opinions are not in there anyway. You know, you obviously have an opinion as a secretary, but it shouldn't say, Jody spent 30 minutes talking about this and she wouldn't shut up. No. That's an opinion. Judgmental phrases. Even motions that are withdrawn. So I make a motion and then through the debate, I realize the motion really isn't what I want and I can withdraw my motion so someone can do a different motion. Those are not listed. Flowery language. Alice had a wonderful idea. Well, Alice may have a wonderful idea, but do we really need to say wonderful? Do we need to say an idea was brought to the committee for this? Your detailed reports. You don't need to say every single thing. You attach that report. If you have a report from the treasurer, those are very important. You just attach that report. You don't need all the details. You know, Karen said this, and Karen, no, we need to have what's important. What is the most important? Again, that e-learning course really went through all of this too. And this is one, the name of the person that seconds the motion. A lot of people think that you have to have that in there. You don't. You can put it in there, but it's not necessary. When I do the motion in the minutes, when I've done them, is Jack Sprout made the motion to close the meeting. Motion was second. Motion carried, or motion was denied. If it's a 2/3 vote, it was motion denied by 2/3 vote. So making sure that you have those in there. You just don't need all the extra. You don't have to say John Clark seconded the motion. So here are sample minutes, and these are on our site. Kentucky PTA has some on second ones too, or examples of them also. But you want to know who's in attendance. If you're not typing them out, you need to have that list attached. The minutes from the previous meeting, what the board talked about, advisory committee, the budget committee, what they all talked about, principal's report. I like bullet points. I'm a bullet person, so I do a lot of bullet points. And then any committee reports were attached. Okay, so we typed this all up, and this is the main function of those rules for motions. And it's very wordy, but it's here and it explains it all. I have 2 videos that explain it, I think, much more easier. So this is left in here so that you can read them. And the copy will be on the website. But I really think the best way to do is to see it in motion, where they explain it down, and then the next thing they do is they show it in motion. It's 2 short videos. And I'm going to share that with you because I think this makes more sense because you can see it in action. The first one is the basics of making a motion, and then the second one is showing you all in play. And why recreate the wheel if someone's already done it and shown it to you? So.
A motion is a proposal for action by a board of directors. The board needs to decide what it will do with each motion presented in the agenda. Motions are the way that a board of directors makes decisions and gives direction. The way a board handles motions is at the heart of how efficient and effective it is in its decision-making. A skilled chair will follow some level of parliamentary procedures. The most common is Robert's Rules of Order. In fact, some association bylaws require the use of Robert's Rules. There are 4 main steps in addressing a motion. 1. Making the motion. 2. Seconding the motion. 3. Discussing the motion. 4. And voting on the motion. Motions are prepared and included in the agenda for a board of directors meeting. A motion begins when a board member says, "I move," and then states the motion. Motion should always be specific so there is no uncertainty on what is being decided. If a motion is formulated at the board meeting, it may be wise to take a short break to give individuals a chance to help prepare for the proper wording. Once a motion is made, it cannot be discussed by the board until it is seconded. A second does not mean the seconder agrees with the motion, but that he or she believes the motion is worthy of consideration. A director can make a second simply by saying, "I second the motion," after a motion is made, without having to obtain the floor. If no one feels that the motion is worthy of discussion, it does not have to be seconded. In that case, the chair would say, "The motion dies for lack of a seconder." It may seem awkward if nobody supports the motion, but respect everyone's time and move on to other business. After a motion is seconded, the motion is discussed by members of the board. It's the chairperson's responsibility to ensure that all comments are made through the chair and that debate is controlled to ensure fairness, balance, and efficiency. Once the chairperson feels that sufficient discussion has been made regarding the motion, he or she will call for the vote. It's up to the chairperson to protect the rights of each attendee to speak, make motions, advocate a position, and to vote. There are different ways to vote, but the most common is by a show of hands. Votes by secret ballot are rare at board meetings, but may be used in areas of confidentiality or sensitive matters. Once the vote is taken, the chairperson announces the result of the vote. There you have it, the main steps in making motions. The proper handling of motions helps board meetings accomplish their objectives in the most efficient and fair manner.
So this actually shows you how it does in 2 minutes.
All right, we will now move to the Finance Committee report. Frank is the chair of the Finance Committee. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Directors has directed the committee to identify ways to improve financial reporting. You'll find a copy of that report in your director's meeting package. On behalf of the Finance Committee, it is moved that the association purchase Working Books accounting information systems to integrate all accounting functions at a cost not to exceed $10,000.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Marco, second for the motion. Thank you. As your chair, I will repeat the motion that the association purchase Working Books accounting information system to integrate all accounting functions at a cost not to exceed $10,000. Frank, would you like to speak to your committee's motion?
Well, I think that all the relevant information is in the report. However, I will say that we're very confident that Working Books will meet all of the association's accounting needs.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion? The chair recognizes Betty.
I speak in favor of the motion, but through you, Madam President, I have one question for Frank.
Please go ahead.
How many accounting software companies were canvassed for quotes?
Staff contacted 7 companies. I'd like to point out that all the information was provided to everyone in the material sent out in advance. We assessed each company's system based on predetermined criteria, and Working Books was clearly the strongest candidate.
Is there any other discussion? Frank, since you've already spoken and Marco and Michelle have their hand up, we'll hear from them first. Marco, the chair recognizes you.
Madam President, I do support this motion, but my question is, can the association assume that the accounting system will continue to be upgraded without any additional cost?
Well, the contract currently has a 2-year upgrade, and after that, we would renegotiate. Thank you. Michelle, did you want to? It's okay. All right, so 3 members have spoken in favor of the motion. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the motion? Are you ready to vote? Okay. As your chair, I'll read the motion that the association purchase Working Books accounting information system to integrate all accounting functions at a cost not to exceed $10,000. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Staff will make arrangements to purchase the Working Books software. Frank, as chair of the committee, is your report now complete?
Yes, it's complete.
Thank you.
Okay. So was there any questions about that? I like the video because it shows it really concise. And remember, if you don't have a second, you don't discuss it. And I've seen motions that come up that someone really wanted it, but it wasn't something that everybody else thought was even something we should discuss. So remembering to get that second is important. Also, the motion form, which this motion form, we really recommend you all using a motion form. And the reason we do this, I'm going to go ahead and open this. Apparently I can't do it at the same time. Let's see. These are on Kentucky PTA's website. And I do recommend that you use these. And the reason why is because you're writing this down. And the secretary does do all these minutes and you're doing everything. You may misinterpret what they write, what they're saying. They should be writing this down. They should write their own motion. If they want to bring a motion to the floor during the meeting, they need to write it out so that we know exactly what it is. It also makes sure that everybody else knows what it is, because president then takes that motion and reads it. If you're doing it through Zoom and you can't email it in advance, you use that chat function and you set out, I move to blah, 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 blah. That way everybody sees your motion. The president's able to read the motion because they have it written right there. And then after the motion is read and all the debate and everything, you would have this afterwards to actually go, okay, this is the date, this was the motion, and then you can go ahead and circle what type of meeting it was. And if you have several motions, you can motion 1, motion 2, motion 3, and then you can put who made the motion, because whoever did this would sign it if you were in person, obviously, and then whether it was approved or not approved. The other is if you tabled it, maybe someone made the motion to table this motion until more information could be discussed, determined, because you don't want to make a motion on something when you don't have all the facts. You can also, I'd like to move this motion to committee. I'd like to form a committee to take care of this motion so that you can bring it back to the board in order for us to vote on it. So these PTA motions are very important. If you don't have the form, you get a blank piece of paper and have it wrote out. It's a little bit more difficult being digital, but like I said, use that chat function so you have it, because you want to make sure whatever you voted on is what is the intended motion was. And everybody can see it and hear it. And then when you go back, especially if it's something like purchasing something, you can go back and say, yes, we agreed on this option. If there were 2 or 3 options, and we agreed on option B because it's sitting in the motion that we are agreeing to purchase option B. So there's no discussion on, well, I thought it was A. I don't remember. It was on that paper. No, it's in the motion. We know what it is. So some other resources I put on here. That's that e-learning course on Kentucky PTA. We have a little bit about running your PTA on our website. National PTA Leaders Kit has a lot of information also. This, I should have did this too. This is a really great thing that I actually put in. It's from Robert's Rules. And if you get confused about how to do a motion, this helps, I think, a lot. And a lot of this was in the presentation, but the type of votes, this shows you majority and this shows you 2/3 vote. So it gives you more detail. And this is from Robert's Rules of Order. So you can also always have the book with you. But as you can see, it's a very thick book. A very, very thick book. So, and it's good to look up things, but having things smaller like this at your fingertips. Kentucky PTA also has in their store something called Robert's Rules that is a card, and I don't have mine right here, but it's a long card that has all the rules and how you do it, and I love it. It's great. It's $1. You can find them on eBay, or not, I don't know about eBay, I haven't looked there, but I know you can find them on Amazon too. They're just a quick study so that they're all on one card and you have it in front of you. So you may be asking why I'm talking about Robert's Rules so much, because you're the secretary and you're going to take those minutes and you've got to have that in your minutes. Who made the motion? Did it pass? Was it seconded? And then was it passed? If it wasn't passed, was it tabled? That has to be in there. If it was tabled to a committee, if they decided to, instead of approving it, but to move it to a committee, then who was the committee? If it was a committee made on the spot, who are the members of that committee? You need to know that information so you can put it in the minutes. So having a basic concept of Robert's Rules makes your job really so much more easy. Now, your bylaws sometimes have, most bylaws do have it. You can have a parliamentarian that either sits on your board or that sits on your board but does not have a vote. You'll have to look at your bylaws to see which way they're written. Everyone's a little different on that particular aspect. Remember, when voting, if you're doing a voice vote or a hand vote, your president does not have a vote, because your president should not be able to influence everybody else's vote. They are a neutral party in that. However, if you do a vote with a ballot, they can vote because their ballot is secret, but it cannot be any other way. Is there any questions about that? Are there any questions about the secretary position at all that I can answer?
None for me.
No, none here. That was all really helpful, though. I appreciate it, Autumn.
No problem. I thank you guys for coming. We actually are getting done 15 minutes early, but I will get this up online as soon as possible. And if you find a question later on, reach out to us and we'll get you the answer. And I thank you guys. This is hard to do, and in our digital world right now with NTI and everything else, but our students and our families and our teachers and our staff, I'm sure, appreciate all your hard work. And I want to thank you guys for all your hard work.